Hey everyone, this is Tony Teaches Tech. I'm Tony, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install a Wildcard SSL certificate for both an Apache and an Nginx web server. Now, this specific tutorial is going to be for WordPress Multisite, although the same concepts apply for any Wildcard SSL certificate installs. So if you're here for WordPress, you're in the right place. If you're here for another type of Wildcard SSL install, then I do think that this video will still be helpful for you, especially when we get into the configuration files for both Apache and Nginx. Now, we're going to be getting our SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt. It's a free SSL certificate. It is a Wildcard SSL certificate, and we're going to be installing something called Certbot to issue that SSL certificate for us. So the plan for this video is to install Certbot. That is going to be the same regardless of if you're on Apache or Nginx. And then I'm going to go do Apache first, we'll do Nginx second, and at the very end we will do auto renewal via a cron job. So I'm going to try to put timestamps down below, so if you need to jump ahead to a certain specific section, if you're here for Apache, you can jump ahead to that. If you're here for Nginx, jump ahead to that type of thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right on into the tutorial here. And basically what I did prior to doing this tutorial is set up an Apache multi-site website here at site1.xyz. As you can see, that's right here. And then the second tab here is the first site in the multi-site setup. So I have fuji.site1.xyz. So these both are running on an Apache web server. And then over here I have site2.xyz, which is running on an Nginx web server. Again, this is a multi-site WordPress setup. And finally, here is the first site in the multi-site setup, blue.site2.xyz. So right now, as you can see, all of these websites are not secure. The goal by the end of the video is to install SSL certificates on each one of these. And that's just going to be one SSL certificate for Nginx and one SSL certificate for Apache, just to be clear. Okay, so first thing we want to do is to log into your server via SSH. And again, this is regardless if you have Apache or Nginx web server. We're going to install Certbot. So what I have here is two terminal sessions, SSH sessions, and I'm logged in to the left at site1.xyz and over here on the right to site2.xyz. Now, to save some time before this video, I already went ahead and installed Certbot, but I'll still go through the process for you. It'll just be a little bit quicker. So always good practice, do an apt update first, and then to the package manager that we're going to use is called snapd to get Certbot, and then we'll do a snap install core, and I already have that, so these are going really quick. It might take a little bit longer for you. And then we want to do snap install -- classic Certbot, okay? And again, because I already have that, it's immediate, it returns, we don't have to do anything. And then I'm going to link that from the snap bin directory to the user bin directory just so we can access it directly with Certbot. And it fails for me because I already have that symbolic link, but it should work for you. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's jump into the Apache Wildcard SSL certificate install. If you're here for Nginx, go ahead and jump forward, but we're going to do Apache now. The first thing I want to do is to just make sure that we're all on the same page as far as our Apache configuration file. So let's just take a look at that real quick. It's at etc apache 2 sites available, and then I have in here wordpress.conf. So the important parts here are that our document we're working out of WordPress, and then our server name has a domain name. For me, it's site1.xyz, and server alias is the *site1.xyz. So that's all working, and that's your Apache configuration file might look a little bit different than mine, but these are right here. This is probably the most important part, to make sure you have the server alias as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and work with Certbot. So the first thing we're going to do, and this is maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but I found it to be the easiest way to proceed with a Wildcard SSL setup, is get I'm going to say temporary SSL certificate for the root domain, because when we get to the point where we want to do the Wildcard SSL, we have to do it manually. But once we issue an SSL certificate for the root domain, we can basically piggyback off of that and add a Wildcard SSL certificate to it. So if that doesn't make sense, it will in a moment. Let's just first start by issuing an SSL certificate for the root domain. So what we want to do is do a certbot -- Apache. And what this is going to do is go through the process of, and this is a typical certbot process, ask for your email. So I'll type that in, tony@tonyteaches.tech. It's going to ask us if you agree with the terms and conditions. Yes, I do. Do you want additional emails? No, thank you. And now it's reading our Apache configuration file, and it detected site1.xyz. And this is what, not the problem, but by default, the automated process that Certbot has does not do wildcard certificates. You have to do it manually, like I was saying. So it's only going to detect site1.xyz. So go ahead and hit enter so we can issue an SSL certificate for that. And that's going to verify that you actually own that domain name. It's going to issue the certificate, install it on your server. And then when that's finished, we'll go ahead and look at the configuration file changes to see what it actually did under the hood. So this is taking a little bit longer than normal, so I was going to pause the video, but it looks like it finished up, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and look at those configuration files. So if we look at WordPress.conf now, Certbot went ahead and added these rewrite rules down here to basically redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Okay, so we'll come back in there in a little bit, and Certbot also added this WordPress Let's Encrypt -SSL configuration file, and this is where we can see that it installed the actual certificate file and the key file. So that was all done automatically for us, and that's why I was saying a little bit earlier that we're leveraging this. We're kind of piggybacking off of the root certificate install. So now comes the time where we can issue the wildcard SSL certificate, and like I keep saying, this is going to be a manual process. So the command for this, and it's a little bit overwhelming, but I'll walk you through it. We're going to do certbot, cert only, manual. Preferred challenge is DNS. We'll go into that in a bit. The server that we're going to be interacting with is this Let's Encrypt server, Acme version 2 API. And then the domain names that we want an SSL certificate are for the wildcard SSL certificate and the root certificate. Okay, so when we execute this, Certbot's smart enough to detect the fact that it had already installed an SSL certificate for our root domain. So it says it contains these names, site1.xyz, and it's asking, do you want to basically expand and replace this existing certificate with a new certificate, which is going to include the root domain and the wildcard domain name, so star or *site1.xyz. And expanding is exactly what we want to do, so type E and hit enter. And now this is where we're going to have to interact with our DNS record. So wherever you got your domain name from, I got my domain name from Namecheap. You might have registered it with GoDaddy or DreamHost or something like that. We basically have to add a text record with this value and technically this value, and this I think they call it the host. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up my Namecheap control panel here and go into, this is where I have site1.xyz, and I can, again, if you used, oops, I have to log in again. So if you bought it from DreamHost or GoDaddy, just find the DNS settings for your domain name. For me, they're in here for site1.xyz. And basically, I want to add a new record. It's going to be a text record. The host is going to be acme-challenge, as you saw back here. acme-challenge.site1.xyz, and then the value is going to be this random string of numbers and characters and letters. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in here and add that text record. So basically now it says, before continuing, verify the record is deployed. And we can do that in another terminal session with the dig command. So we can do dig-t text and then _acme. It's basically this right here. So we can just copy that instead of typing it. And as long as that comes back with the answer section having the value that we just pasted in there, in the DNS record, then we're good to go. So we're safe to proceed. So we can get out of here, hit enter, and if it doesn't show up right away, you might have to wait like a few minutes for that to show up, and then you can try again. So let's go ahead and continue. Press enter to continue. It's going to verify again that we own all the wildcard subdomains, all that stuff. Kind of similar process to before. And again, oh no, it's working. Sometimes it's a little slow. That was pretty quick actually, but sometimes it may take up to a minute or two to do that verification and cleaning up and all that stuff. So great. So right now we have a 2-in-1 certificate for our root domain and our wildcard domain. So we can verify that with Certbot. I think it's certificates. And yep, so here Certbot found the following certificates. Here is the domains that it's relevant to. So the wildcard domain site1.xyz and then the root domain site1.xyz. So there's a couple things we have to do. I just want to show you what we're working with right now. So let's get out of here, go back to our root domain name. So if we refresh the page, it should redirect us to the HTTPS version with the SSL certificate installed now. And it does, because you can see this lock icon right here. Let's look at the certificate. It is issued by, well, R3, but if we look at the actual details, it's a Let's Encrypt certificate here. But the thing is, if we refresh the subdomain or any of your subdomains, it's not going to do the automatic redirect for us, okay? But if we explicitly go to https:// and this is I'm pretty confident that this is a caching issue. So I'm going to get out of this guest window and open up a new guest window. So give me a second here. This is always new window. This is always hard to do just because of the caching issues and because we're doing it live. So if you explicitly go to https:/your subdomain dot your main domain, it should pull in that new SSL certificate. And it did not. So let me think about this real quick here. Did I miss a step? Let me see if you usually don't have to do a reload of the server, but let me see if that works. System CTL restart Nginx Apache 2. All right, let's see if that helps. There. Okay, so maybe that was it. We had to do a reload or a reset of the restart of the server. So let's look at this certificate. It is using the wildcard SSL certificate *site1.xyz. And again, if you look at the details here, that will be the same certificate, and we can match up these serial numbers probably, and they would match up because it's the same certificate, one certificate for both the root and the subdomains. Okay, but we still have the problem, right? If we go to HTTP explicitly, it's actually going to serve that website, but we want to redirect all traffic from HTTP to HTTPS. So the thing I found, if we look at our WordPress configuration file for Apache, basically, and I'll be honest, I don't really know why this doesn't work, but basically this is saying if your server name is site1.xyz or if your server name is wildcard.site1.xyz, then redirect it to the HTTPS version. Like I said, I don't know why that doesn't work, but I found the following modifications to work. So basically, if we keep rewrite engine on, we get rid of these last 3 lines here, and we put in basically if this says if the request is not HTTPS, then we want to make it HTTPS, is basically what we're saying here. So it's a little bit more, I guess, strict as far as redirecting all traffic to this server to HTTPS. So if we make that change and then restart the Apache server, and we'll open up our site again. So again, if we explicitly go to HTTP:// now, because of that new rewrite rule, it should redirect us to HTTPS. So let's see if that works. And it does. So now we're redirecting. So that's very good. The one last thing I want to show you here, if we go to WordPress admin, and let me log in here real quick. So, and this might be, it probably will be the same for you. If you installed your WordPress multi-site setup under HTTP, you're going to have this persistent, let's call it an issue, where any new site you create is going to default to HTTP. So right now, let me just show you the current site. So if we go to My Sites, Network Admin Sites, and we look at fuji.site1.xyz, if we edit that, you'll see that the site address is HTTP and the settings are HTTP for the site URL and home. Now, the only thing that you're going to have to do from this point forward is any new subdomain, you'll just have to explicitly say HTTPS, save those changes, and that'll update your site URL and home as well. But let me just demonstrate real quick. If we go to, well, we can do add a new site. Let's say, what are we, Apple site? So if we do like Gala Apple, I'm making a new site here. We'll say Tony@tonyteaches.tech. That's good. So we'll add that site. And now if we go back to our list of sites right here and we edit that, we'll see, like I was saying, it's going to default to HTTP, unfortunately, because you set up your root site, site1.xyz, under HTTP. So I did a whole bunch of playing around, like changing the site URL, site address for the root site. None of that seemed to help. I think the only solution would be to make sure you start with an HTTP installation, an HTTPS installation as your root site. But in the meantime, the easy fix is to just explicitly make every subdomain HTTPS. Okay. That's about it for Apache. If you want to skip forward to how to auto-renew your SSL certificate, then check for the timestamp for that below. Otherwise, we're going to go right into Nginx. All right, so let's take care of installing a Wildcard SSL certificate on an Nginx web server, specifically for WordPress Multisite. So again, we have site2.xyz, that's our root domain name. It is not secure at this point, and we have the subdomain blue.site2.xyz, which is operating under the WordPress Multisite. That is not secure as well. So the goal by the end of this segment is to install a Wildcard SSL certificate that's going to be good for both this subdomain, future subdomains, and the root domain. So let's go ahead and open up our terminal window. And what I first wanted to do is just take a look at our Nginx configuration file, just so we're all on the same page. So that's usually at etc Nginx sites available, and then mine is called WordPress. Yours might be called something different. And we've got a basic Nginx configuration file here. The thing that I want to point out that is important is that for your server name, you want to have your root domain and then your wildcard domain. So star or asterisk .site2.xyz for me, and it's definitely going to be a different domain name for you. And just take a good look at what this looks like. We have a single server block, our upstream here, and a couple location blocks here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to basically use Certbot, which we already installed in the beginning of this video, to issue an SSL certificate for the root domain. And then because the wildcard SSL certificate issuance is a manual process, we're going to let Certbot modify our configuration file for Nginx so that, we don't make any mistakes in that regards. And then we're going to issue the certificate manually for wildcard. And it's going to Certbot's going to be smart enough to expand that certificate that it installed for the root domain and also include the wildcard domain. So it's kind of confusing, but as we walk through this process, it should make a little bit more sense. So let's go ahead, because we already have Certbot installed from the beginning of this tutorial, let's do Certbot --Nginx. And what this is going to do is actually go in and read our Nginx configuration file that we just looked at, and it's going to detect that we have site2.xyz. So we saw that there was the asterisk.site2.xyz. That's what I mean by we have to manually install the SSL certificate for that wildcard because the main Certbot command doesn't do that in an automated fashion. So let's go ahead and do the root domain here. It's asking for the email, so I'm going to say tony@tonyteaches.tech, and then, I jumped ahead of myself. I already entered that information in prior. So it might prompt you for your email address. It'll ask you to agree to the terms and conditions, and then it will say, do you want to receive extra emails? You can say no to that. But now it's just asking me if this is the domain that I want to apply the SSL certificate to, and that is correct. So I'm going to hit enter. And now it's requesting a certificate. It's validating that we own that domain name, and it has deployed the certificate onto our server and installed it. And it actually modified our WordPress configuration file for Nginx here. We can go back in here and see what it did. So basically this is what we had before, and it added this listen down here for port 443, which is HTTPS port. Here's our certificate file and the key. And then down here we have an additional server block, which is basically redirecting unsecure connections on HTTP to HTTPS secure connections. So that's good. So we can come back to, just to test it out, if we refresh this page for site2.xyz, we should be redirected to the secure version, and we are. So we can see that here, and we have the lock icon with the certificate that is from Let's Encrypt. All right, good stuff. So we got the root certificate installed. Now let's do the wildcard certificate. So like I said, this is a manual process, and it's kind of a big command that we're going to execute here. I'll walk you through it though. Certbot is the command we're executing. We only want the certificate. It's going to be manual. Preferred DNS or preferred challenges is DNS. We'll go through that in a second. And then the server that we're going to be interacting with for the certificate issuance is the Let's Encrypt server, Acme version 2 API. And then the domains that we want the SSL certificate for are the wildcard domain, so *site2.xyz in my case, and then the root domain as well. And you'll notice here that when we execute this command, Certbot, like I was saying, is smart enough to know that it installed an SSL certificate for the root domain. So it notices that, and it says, oh, it looks like you also want to install an SSL certificate for the wildcard domain. So it can take the existing certificate that we just installed for the root domain and basically expand it to also include the wildcard domain as well. So that is exactly what we want to do. So you can type in E for expand, hit enter. And this is where we're going to do that DNS challenge that I was talking about. So basically for Certbot and Let's Encrypt to verify that you actually own the subdomains under your main domain, you have to add a DNS text record to wherever you registered your domain name from. So I got my domain name from Namecheap, and I'll go through the process of adding the DNS text record. And it's going to be the same process for you. It's just going to be a different user interface. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to copy this string onto my clipboard, and I'm going to minimize this. And here is the list of domains that I own with Namecheap. You'll see something similar if you have GoDaddy or DreamHost. Just find your domain name, go into your DNS settings, and what you want to do is just add a text record to your DNS settings. The value is going to be that string of numbers, characters, and letters. And then the value, as you saw back here, just to confirm, is _acme-challenge. Just this part. We don't need the domain. So go ahead and add that text record. And what it says back here is before continuing, verify the record is deployed. And we can do that. Just open up a new terminal window, and we can use the dig command to verify that that was actually applied. So if we do dig-t text, and then basically we're looking for this guy right here. So we can copy that, paste it in, and hit enter. And as long as you see in the answer section the random numbers, characters, and letters that matches up with what it wants you to have, then we're good to go. So we can get out of here, and we can continue on with hitting enter. And it's going to look at those DNS records, it's going to verify that we own it, and we're good to go. So now what Certbot has done is it combined the certificate to include your root domain and the wildcard domain. So we can go to, we can verify that with Certbot certificates. And you'll see here that it found that one certificate, and the domains that are relevant to it are the wildcard domain name and the root domain name. So right now, what we can do is test this out. So, if we, just so there's no caching issues, let's get out of here and open up a new guest window. So give me a second until I do that. And then we will go to the root domain site2.xyz, and the certificate is installed. It is using the root certificate, and then we go to blue.site2.xyz. And this is the part where we have to do a little bit more configuration. So as you see, it's defaulting to the HTTP version of our website, and it's giving us a 404 not found. If we go to the secure version, https:// your subdomain dot your main domain.com, whatever it is, it's going to give you this connection is not private error potentially. So what we basically have to do is modify our, and I'm going to get out of here for caching reasons, we're going to have to modify our Nginx configuration file again. And I'm not sure why it defaults this way, but basically this server block where it's adding this logic to redirect from HTTP to HTTPS, I didn't find worked for me. What I did find works for me is getting rid of all this, and basically it's basically a modification from what it has to basically listening on port 80. Anything that comes in over port 80 that is under this server name, we're going to basically redirect it to the HTTPS version. So, and it's a permanent 301 redirect. That's what that means. So with that modification, if we do a system ctl restart Nginx, and we go back into a new guest window, whoops. Let me open up a new guest window here. Here we go. Okay, so let's try that out again. If we go to blue.site2.xyz, that should take us to the secure version of our website by default, and it does. And if we look at the certificate, it is our wildcard certificate here that was issued by Let's Encrypt. And just to be explicit about this, I want to go to HTTP just to make sure it redirects us from unsecure to secure, and it does. So we're good to go. And one last test, let's just see site2.xyz. If we get that, we're good. And explicitly HTTP. All right, so our redirects are working. One other thing that I should tell you guys about is in the WordPress admin dashboard. Let me log in there quick. Because you installed your WordPress multisite under HTTP, if that's the case for you, what you're going to have in the future is every site that you add, you're going to have to explicitly give the address, the site address, to be HTTPS. So right now we see our site address is HTTP, and the site URL home is also HTTP. But if we want to be explicit about this, we can make that HTTPS, and you'll see that updates your site URL in home as well. So basically, if that doesn't make sense, every new site that you add, let's just do, what's another site I can make? BlackBerry. And real quick, add this new site. You'll see that if we go to all of our sites again and we edit, we want the black site. You'll see it's going to default to HTTP. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to make that change from HTTP to HTTPS in the future. Yeah, other than that, I think that's all I wanted to say. Let's go ahead and move into the auto renewal. So these certificates by default from Let's Encrypt are good for 90 days. So today is February 1st. This is good until May 22nd. So that's about 90 days. If you can always come in and issue the renew command manually, but what I found that is effective is to do something like this. So basically you can do certbot renew right on the command line. That's what you do manually, and it's going to say that there is no the certificate is not ready to be renewed yet. Okay, but we can add a cron job to auto renew that, and in cron jobs you always have to give them the absolute path. So if you do which certbot, and we should remember this from the beginning, we're going to give it the full path to certbot, and if we want to log this information to a log file, we can redirect the output of this. So certbot renew we can redirect the output of this, or have it on the clipboard, redirect the output to var log let's encrypt renew.log. So when we execute that, it'll create that log file. It'll append to the end of the log file the attempt that it just made, and that's basically going to look something like this. And yeah, so no renewals were attempted. So to automate this, we have to create a cron job. So you can type in cron tab -e, and I'm going to use the Vim text editor here. And at the very bottom, just add a new line in here, and it can look something like this. So, which basically means, if you're not familiar with the cron syntax, this is the command that we just executed. This first column is minutes, hours, and you can see that here: minutes, hours, day of the month, month of the year, and day of the week. So basically, every single day for eternity at 1:30 a.m., we're going to execute this command, see if there is a renewal available for the certificate, and if it is, then we can it'll go ahead and automatically renew that for us. Now, this is a basic way to renew your SSL certificate with Certbot. If for a more comprehensive tutorial, I have this video which you guys should check out. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. And please subscribe for more videos like this from me in the future. If you do, I'll see you in the next one.